Welcome to another episode of Palm Harbor Local. I'm your host, Florida native and real estate ninja, Donnie Hathaway. You know, I started this podcast because I'm extremely passionate about connecting you with the people and the local businesses that make Palm Harbor so special. Palm Harbor, Florida is a great place to live, work, and play. It has everything you could dream of, from the food, the outdoors, the lifestyle, to the people in the community. I wanted to create a podcast that connected the community and inspired everyone to live better. To join this community and stay up to date on all things Palm Harbor, visit my website, it's palmharborlocal.com, and sign up there to join the locals. And remember, together, we keep Palm Harbor local. So on today's episode, we have Ashley Howard with Howard's Cleaning Service. Now, you guys have two locations in Florida and back in Ohio.
Yep.
So just welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Yeah. Let's start in the beginning. So you started your business in Ohio,
Yeah.
and you and Billy, husband and wife, you guys have owned the business from the beginning.
Mm-hmm. So we started back in 2009, and I kept my corporate job for a number of years. I sold IT services to big companies, and we decided to start our own business. And my corporate job kind of helped fund the business. And then it was nice to still have health benefits and all that stuff, since you lose that once you become self-employed.
Yeah.
So we started it with one van back in 2009, and then we have 3 vans in Cincinnati now, and then we have 3 down here. So we moved to Florida back in 2017. We had purchased a beach rental in Clearwater Beach, and then that's kind of what made it where we were officially going to move. So we moved pretty quickly. In about 90 days, we were able to get a cash offer on our house in Cincinnati. A friend of ours' mom bought our house, and we were like, all right, we're out of here. Let's do this. And obviously in Florida, there's, a lot of need for our services with the older generation here. They typically outsource that type of service that we provide. And then obviously there's a lot of rentals here and people moving to the Florida area. So we've been able to ramp up pretty quickly here. And when we first moved, I also kept my corporate job for about another 9 months. And then since then, quit that and do the business full time now.
Yeah. So take me back to the beginning of starting the business. What did you guys have experience in cleaning floors?
No, we both knew that we wanted to have our own business and be entrepreneurs. Out of college, though, I took the sales route and started in sales and worked my way up at the company I was with. And then Billy got laid off. That was kind of like the trigger to start. He worked for Coca-Cola in sales, and he was low man on the totem pole. And he was like, I'm not going to do this corporate grind anymore. What should we do? And his stepfather was like, why don't you look into floor cleaning? You don't need a storefront. You don't really need a whole lot to get started, and pretty much anybody could use your services. It's kind of recession proof. So we took $10,000 and we started with that, and just continued to grow from there. And we didn't know anything about it. He did a lot of YouTubing, went to some classes, and now we know way too much about it.
So you got into the business and you've never cleaned floors before. What was that like? That's a steep learning curve, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, luckily for YouTube and videos, and Billy's really good at putting things together and learning. And he's more of like a hands-on kind of person. He's one of those people that you get a grill and he doesn't even need the manual to put it together. So for him, it came pretty easy, and he just started doing a lot of research. And then we met with the supply houses in the area that had been in the industry a long time, and just started, building our repertoire behind it. And then for a long time, it was just him doing the work. Yeah. So he learned how to do it all. And then as we were able to grow, he would, brought on new people and then taught them how to do it.
Yeah. So what was that like the process of kind of growing the business then? What did you use to market yourselves and get your name out there to build it?
So back in 2009, things was a little different. Like social media wasn't as prevalent. So there was a service called Home Advisor that is now owned by Angie's List, that we got a lot of business from. And back then Groupon was really good. Google wasn't even that prevalent back then. Like now that's Google and social media and networking is how we get all of our business.
Yeah.
So it was just a little bit a different back then. And then obviously all our friends and family, grew up in Cincinnati. So we were pretty connected between college and golfing and high school and family. We were, able to get a number of clients and help put the word out there pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then just using that Home Advisor and Angie's List and Groupon was really how we got it going.
Yeah,
And then
crazy.
at the time, though, I always had a corporate job, so I didn't really have time to do marketing for the business. I was more just helping, like doing the invoicing and on the back end and helping with the phones and stuff.
Okay.
So it's interesting to see how quickly we're growing here in Florida because now I'm focused solely on building the business where we never really tried to build the business in Cincinnati because he was always out on the truck
Right. There's only so
running
much
a
you can
route.
do.
And then
Yeah.
I was still, managing a corporate sales job and trying to help with the business. So it's fun to see how we've already basically, we're about equal now, Florida and Ohio, as far as revenue goes, because now we're not in Ohio focusing on that as much. So that's not growing, but we are focused here. So
Yeah. Was the goal for you to always step away from the corporate job and then?
yeah, but
Okay.
I learned a lot from it. And, I went to college and I knew I wanted to get into sales, but at the same time, I knew I always wanted my own business.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I stuck with it and learned a lot. And it helped, like I said, it helped fund our business,
Yeah.
because I was making good money, salary plus commission. And I was selling, big solutions to companies. So it was just like, it was one of those things I kept saying, okay, I'll leave once we get to the X.
Yeah.
I'll leave once we do this much revenue. And then, just kept getting like pushed back. So I think once we finally moved here and then opened a second location, it was too much to try to do a full-time sales job and try to grow
Manage.
the business
Yeah.
here. So I was like,
Yeah.
okay, it's time. This is now the time
Yeah.
we can do this. But it's a lot to walk away from. I mean, you're on, it's essentially, owning your own business is being on straight commission. So
Right. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
There's no salary there
No,
to kind of.
there's nothing to
push
back you. So,
Yeah.
but it's like, it's all timed, been worked out how we wanted it to.
Yeah. That's cool. So take me back to like just the mindset of like wanting to own your own business. Is that something like growing up as a kid? Like where did that come from?
So when
And you and Billy both had that.
yeah,
Okay.
he wanted to as well. And he actually went to college and didn't finish college. And
Okay.
he, like I said, he kind of went the corporate route and got burned a couple times. So he was like, I'm not going to keep, not having control of my own destiny. Let me
Yeah.
go on my own. And then it's up to me if I'm going to fail or not. Like I can't get laid off. I can't get fired or, anything like that. So, it made sense for him to take the leap first and me keep the backbone for us. But growing up, it was definitely something always like I wanted to do when I was a kid. I was like, oh, I want to be a teacher. When I would play with my friends, I was a teacher
Yeah.
or like the librarian, like the cash register person. So I wanted to be in control. But then I was like, teachers don't make enough money.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do the sales route. So
Okay.
that's kind of how we fell into it. But then the floor cleaning was just random that we picked that as the
Yeah.
industry to start.
Yeah, it's crazy. What have you enjoyed about being in the, because you guys have done this for almost 10 years now?
No more since 2009. So
Since
this is
2009,
13
okay. Wow,
years.
crazy.
Yeah.
So what have you, so obviously you enjoy something about it or you wouldn't have stuck with it this long. What do you
Yeah.
guys enjoy about the business?
It's fun because we can provide like a service for people and we can be honest. What I found is when I used to call people out to my home when I was young and we just got married and it was our first time calling even floor cleaner
Yeah,
or
right.
fix your garage or whatever, you don't know what you're called, like what you need done. So you just assume what they're telling you is what you need.
Right.
And
right,
sometimes they just sell you stuff that you don't really need.
Right.
And so we were like, let's provide a service at a fair, honest price and only give the customer what they need. Because I can remember the very first time we had a floor cleaner out to our house, they like told you it's going to be X dollars and then they get there and they add on fees.
Yeah.
And that's just stings. So we just decided to create a service that doesn't do that. As long as what you said you have on the phone is what you have, then that's going to be the price that you pay when we leave. And it's satisfying. Like we're, the before and afters that we create
Yeah.
for people, what we can get out of floors and, just making people happy. It's a rewarding service, to
Yeah.
provide. And there's not a ton of overhead. I mean, we have gas, supplies, insurance, and vehicles and payroll and everything. But like, again, I said, I think it's helpful that we don't have to have like that big storefront. That adds a whole lot more cost to owning a business.
Yeah.
And since then, we've also gotten into the property management business. Like I said, what got us here was the rental in Clearwater, but now we also have three long-term rentals as well.
Cool.
So
You guys are managing yourselves. Yeah. Cool.
yeah, so we're doing that too. So that's kind of another, our other revenue stream, is the rental business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very cool. I think you just hit on a really good point as far as like the service provide. Like I feel like I wrote this down too. There's tips for starting a service-based industry. Like I feel like there's a lot of opportunity here in Florida to just do something like you said, right? Just show up
Yeah.
and do what you say you're going to do.
When we first moved here, some of the questions I would get on the phone were like questions I'd never got before in Ohio. Like,
Yeah.
Are you insured? I'm like, obviously, we have to be insured to work with any commercial clients,
Okay.
first of all.
Yeah.
And so like, yeah, let me send you our insurance. No problem. Certificate of insurance. I can send that right over. And in our scheduling system, like we have our proposals, we have that built in. So that was like a weird question. And then just like, are you sure you're going to come? I'm like, absolutely. We will be there. Like, I think there's a lot of, service providers here in Florida that just, come and like they don't necessarily get all the licensing and insurance required and become not reliable. So I think here for us, just showing up and being reliable and honest and a family owned business has helped us succeed. I mean, there's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
Definitely there's a ton of people that do what we do, but we've been able to build relationships with the other floor cleaners in the area because sometimes it doesn't make sense, for us to drive a certain place, if it's just a small job or like I just realized that this morning that happened because one of my guys called out sick and we had a job all the way in Tampa. And then I pulled it up on the calendar and I'm like, oh my God, it's an hour. Like this probably doesn't make sense. So I called another owner of another company that's over that way. And I was like, hey, can you take this one for me? My guy called out and he did, so it's, you phone a friend and you learn from them. And we've made some good friends in the industry too. And I do the same thing in Ohio, just because you never know when you need help from another floor cleaner. So there's a lot of good people that do what we do. But I think just in Florida overall, the reputation is that service providers, they just bail or they don't show up or call. And like we all, if sometimes things happen, equipment breaks, people call out sick,
right.
Those are things that are out of your control, but we call immediately and, remedy the situation as best as we can.
Right. Just communicate with the client.
Communication is key. And I think a lot of these, maybe it's like a one-man show kind of company. So they're wearing 10 different hats and it's a lot to manage. So they just fall short.
Yeah. So, so it was different in Ohio. Like the expectation was you're going to show up and
it was just, we didn't get as much leeriness in Ohio. It was like, they didn't, some of the questions we get here, they didn't ask some of the weird questions that they do here.
Right. Yeah. There's no trust there really.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's crazy. That sucks, man. But it is what it is because like you said, there's people that just, don't show up, don't communicate and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to ask you, like, what is it like working with your husband, Billy? And like, how do you guys manage that, like working together and just living together and doing that whole thing?
Yeah. So at this point, I honestly don't know any different because it feels like we've been doing it for so long. We got married in 2006 and then started the business in 2009, but we've been together for 21 years. So, but now it's kind of just part of our life, especially because we have the properties too. So in this day and age, you're constantly, there's no boundaries anymore. Like it's really hard to set boundaries. I mean, we try, but people call after hours. I mean, because that's when they get home and then they walk in the door and, oh, my floors are a mess. And so I just try to, respond as quickly as possible. Sometimes, it takes a little bit longer if it's after hours, but we've managed to still, be able to go out and enjoy ourselves and not talk about business. It's just important that you still separate the two. So sometimes he's better at checking out than I am. I'm kind of like an always on person. So it's good to have, one like that and one where he's more lackadaisical and nothing really bothers him kind of thing. So we have to both remind each other, like, sometimes I have to remind him, well, this is work. We got to talk about this, even though you don't want to talk about it right now. These are the issues that happened today or whatever. But we work pretty well together. Like I said, we've been together a long time, but at this point we don't really know any different, but it's not for everybody. I mean, I have
Yeah.
friends that have tried it and it didn't work, and God forbid it leads to, divorce or something like that.
Sure.
But it's just, you have to remember, like, even my parents have witnessed Billy and I talking to each other. And sometimes the way we talk to each other when we're talking about work, it's like we're basically not together. We're
Yeah.
not like,
You're
we
like
don't necessarily always talk the nicest
Yeah.
because he's more of the operations. And I'm, I don't necessarily understand all what it takes sometimes to get the machine up and running, and
Sure.
what all the physical requirements it takes a toll on your body. And, saying, "Oh, well, the guys can do that. They can do another job today." And he's
Yeah.
like, "No, they really can't."
Yeah.
So it's just knowing your roles and your boundaries and respecting that each of us knows certain things, avenues of the business better than others.
Yeah, that's cool. So it's like you guys are like really just like the perfect match to, business owner, right? And because you each have your own strengths.
Yeah. And you have to set some boundaries though, and
Yeah.
remember we both have the same intention to do the right thing and,
Right.
push the business forward. But sometimes we're not going to always agree. But that's the same thing in a relationship or anybody,
Yeah.
coworkers or bosses you have along the way. So
Right.
you just have to learn how to work together.
Yeah. Was that kind of an intentional piece that you guys did to try to like separate business from your personal life, or was it just kind of like it just naturally fell into place and it just
You
kind of
mean
worked?
like setting the boundaries and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, he's definitely better at it than I am
Yeah.
as far as setting, because I want to like make sure we respond to every customer right away. Because in our industry, or even any industry anymore, everybody wants an answer now.
Yeah.
So they're Googling or Facebooking and asking for what they need, and if you don't answer, they're dialing for dollars for the next one.
Yeah.
So it's that whole, you have to really balance how many times are you going to have your evening be interrupted,
Right. Right. Yeah. That's a hard part, right? Just time blocking, setting in like that personal time where it's like, I'm going to put the phone down, which is a challenge.
Yeah.
Right?
So like I've made it a point, like, with this time change, for example, like I
Yeah.
really enjoy golfing, and it's like, well, now I can't play in the afternoon because we used to play after work or whatever. So I've scheduled it on Tuesdays, and then but it's hard, like, because even though I have an office girl working, people are still messaging me, calling me, like, I'm like, I can't wait till I'm retired and I can actually like play golf. I'll be like a really good golfer then.
So do you put the phone down when you're golfing, or you have
I
the phone?
try, but
Yeah.
in between holes, I'm checking,
Yeah.
what kind of fires am I putting out? But
Yeah.
I just say, like, it could be worse,
For sure.
I mean, we're still here in Florida enjoying the beautiful weather, and I'm
Yeah.
able to golf in December,
Right.
So you have to like focus on the positives of it.
Yeah.
But one day I'll be able to remove myself more and more. That's, the goal. Like
Yeah.
I was just thinking on the way here. Right now I have a part-time phone person like 3 days a week.
Okay.
And I think for 2023, I, at this point in the game, need to separate myself from, like, as much as I enjoy the phones, I've done it for so long and I'm good at moving the puzzle pieces around and everything. Like I should be, they say you should be working on your business, not in it. And
Yeah.
I'm still in it,
Yeah.
for part of the day, for part of the week.
Right. Right.
So that I think for 2023, I should relinquish those phone
Step back a little bit.
Things, because I can be doing more valuable things like this, or
Yes.
stuff in the community, and just don't have to be so tied to the phone.
Yeah. I think that's like the next step of like being, a solopreneur or a small business owner, and then really like growing the business, scaling the business. If that's something you want to do, you have to step back.
Mhm.
You can't be involved in the day-to-day little tasks like that.
Right.
So you guys moved to Florida 5.5 years ago.
Yep.
What brought you to Florida? What's up, Palm Harbor? It's your host, Donnie Hathaway. If you are looking to stay up to date with all things Palm Harbor, then visit my website. It's palmharborlocal.com. Super simple. You can sign up there, join the locals, where I'll be sharing more information on local events, local history, and what's happening in Palm Harbor. I really want to create and add more value to you as a listener for spending your valuable time tuning into my podcast. So join me there, keep listening, and remember, together, we keep Palm Harbor local.
The rental in Clearwater Beach.
Okay.
So we bought that with my family, and at the time I still had the corporate job, but Billy and I spent lots of money every year traveling. My mom's a travel agent, so I've grown up around travel my
Okay,
whole
cool.
life. And we would spend thousands of dollars a year going to the beach. We'd go on to a cruise, all inclusives, come to Florida. We never really like specifically came to Clearwater, so to speak.
Okay.
But then we decided to do this, Airbnb, VRBO thing. And
So you bought that 5.5 years
we
ago?
bought that in July of 16.
Okay.
So we came down in May of 16, stayed in Indian Rocks Beach in a Airbnb and had a great time, and closed on the property in July. And then in December of 16, we stayed here at the property for about 10 days. And we looked at each other and said, why do we spend all this money traveling to the Caribbean or Florida?
Yeah.
Like we could, I think having an asset, like a property that made us realize like, well, we could have a house here too that we live in.
Yeah.
And then I just remembered that my friend wanted to buy her mother-in-law wanted to buy a house in our neighborhood in Cincinnati. And I was like, she can buy ours. So I called her, and when we got back, and I said, does your mother-in-law want to look at our house again? And so she paid cash. And then I went to my corporate job, and I was like, they were expanding. They weren't really ready to expand to Florida at that point, but I was like, I'm out, I'm moving.
Yeah.
I want to stay with the company, but we're going to move. And they were like, well, we're not really ready yet. And I was like, I basically gave them an ultimatum. Either at that point, I was confident that I could quit if I wanted to. But I ended up
to keep
staying.
the business and just work in the business.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I stayed on with them for like the first 9 months we moved here.
Okay.
And then we bought this house in Tarpon. We just literally were looking at houses from St. Pete all the way up. Like we didn't, like I said, we didn't know the area.
Yeah.
We would go to Destin typically if we were going to go to Florida.
Okay.
Billy has some family there when we came down to Florida. So we were just looking at houses, and we found this house we liked. We ended up buying it. The realtor FaceTimed us, and we're like, all right, we'll take it. Because we figured if we hated it, we could rent it out.
Yeah.
And then get something else. So we knew nothing about Tarpon Springs. Like we just
Crazy.
found it on the map. We're like, well, that looks cute.
Yeah.
And like started like looking at the Google on like driving
Google
around
Streets,
in Google
yeah.
on it. And I was like, that looks great. So we picked it, and we were looking at your traditional Florida home, like with the ranch, with the pool. And then we ended up finding this stilt house, and it was completely flipped. And it was like, that's different, that's really cool. So we picked it on a whim, and now fast forward, it's almost 6 years.
Crazy. So moving down here was just kind of like a snap decision. Like, we could do this.
We did it in 90 days.
So from
December, we were here in December of 16. We moved March 1st.
Crazy.
Yeah. And now my parents live here, and then Billy's mom has a condo here. So we don't get homesick. Even when we first moved here and nobody was here, everybody came to visit. Like our house was a revolving door. And I was like, if I take off work every time somebody's here, I'm never going to work.
Right.
So we had to juggle that when we first moved here. And like I said, since then, now everyone else has places here. So people are here all the time.
I think that's one thing that's really cool about traveling, right? Is you just get to experience different places, and it just opens up your mind to different opportunities, different possibilities that you never quite realized were even there.
Yeah, we kind of looked at it too as we're getting older, and we're like, if we don't move now, we're never going to move. And I lived in Cincinnati my whole life.
Yeah.
I went to University of Kentucky for a little bit, and then came back and graduated from University of Cincinnati. So I was Cincinnati forever.
Yeah.
So it was a big move for both of us.
And you were planning to stay there? Like, no.
I mean, we talked about moving or whatever, but then it wasn't until we did the whole beach rental thing that we really said, okay, let's do this. Because again, if we didn't move, we're in our 30s. If we didn't move then, we were going to be stuck there.
Right.
And now it's like, I'm so thankful we did it, because most people wait till they retire to do what they want to do. And it's like, why not just build our life here?
Right.
We basically, when we're off, you're like on vacation. You live in paradise,
Yeah.
It's
really cool. Like I grew up here in Florida, and I even catch myself sometimes. I'm like, dang, man, like Florida is pretty awesome. Like we live here.
Yeah.
And people come here to vacation and stuff. There's just a lot of cool spots.
Yeah. You have to remind yourself though, like even like in the morning, if like driving to the gym, the sun's coming up and I'm like, oh my God, the sky's so beautiful.
Right.
Like you have to remember, like, this is where we live.
Yeah.
And be thankful, because right now in Cincinnati, it's cold and dreary.
Yeah. That's
I don't miss
fun.
those dreary days.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never experienced that, and I don't
lucky.
plan to.
Now when it gets like dreary here one day, I'm like, where's the sun? Where's the sun at?
Right. So speaking of like the sunshine in Florida and everything, what is like, if you're going to have a day off and you're going to do whatever it is that you want to do, or you and Billy want to do, Like, where are you guys going? What are you
Boating
doing?
or golfing.
Boating or golfing.
Yeah.
I love it. Where do you
Yeah.
like to go boating at?
We
You
usually go
Three
to the
Rooker?
island. Yeah. Three Rooker is our main stop. Or we go down to Lake Clearwater and have lunch and
Cool.
come back.
Yeah.
Or we just putter around in the river in Tarpon, and there's,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, some restaurants and places you can stop. But he likes to fish a lot too.
Yeah.
So yeah, boating if it's nice out. And then that's why we try to golf during the week when we get off work. But now the
Yes.
time change, it's hard because
Yeah, I
it
know.
gets dark at freaking 5:30.
Yeah, it's crazy. We got to just keep it one
Well,
time.
I think we're done doing the time change now.
Is it
I
like
think
official?
It was legislation passed.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
But
keep
I don't
hearing
know how
that.
much that's really going to help.
Right.
But I guess it'll stay dark a little bit later still, like
Yeah.
year round then.
Right. Yeah. So, cool. So boating and golfing. Where's your favorite golf course?
We go to Cypress Run.
Okay.
where
That's
Memphis
right.
at.
Yeah. Cool.
The first year we were here, we kind of just played around different courses to kind of get a feel
Yeah.
for what was around. And then we joined there and we clean the floors there so that we kind of do like we pay for some of the dues and then we do a trade towards part of it. So it makes golf feel a little cheaper because
Yeah.
it's an expensive hobby.
Right. It is.
Billy's like at the point where he's like, I'd rather just be fishing. I don't have to be good at fishing. And I'm like, he gets all frustrated. I'm like, we're not going to go pro. We're just golfing for fun.
Yeah,
it's
just-
enjoyable,
right.
you know, and it's a great way to do business too. And like, you can spend 4 hours with someone and really get to know them because you're watching, like, you can see how they handle like bad shots,
Right.
like how their personality is.
Yes.
So we do a lot of that too, or we go golfing with, prospective clients and other business owners like that we network with.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then you get the both of the best of both worlds, where you have like the beach where you can go out on the boat, and then the outdoors, the woods in Florida, and that sort of stuff from
Yeah.
golfing. So cool. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
How can people? We'll link everything in the description below. But what's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they have questions?
They can
about-
call or text our office number at 727-279-5621. And we are all over Facebook and Google for like vetting us out, seeing our reviews and our work.
Yep, Howard's Cleaning, and we didn't talk much about what you guys do, but
Oh
you
yeah, we
clean
didn't
floors.
really at all. Floors and upholstery. So
Yeah.
carpet, our tagline is couches, hardwood, carpet, or tile and grout. Give Howard's a shout and we'll get it out.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you again for listening to another episode of Palm Harbor Local. I really hope you got a ton of value out of today's episode. Now, if you're looking to connect with the guest or just get more information on the episode, then you can check the description below. I'll have all the links in the episode as well as a link back to my website. It's palmharborlocal.com, where you can stay up to date on what's going on with the podcast and sign up there to join the locals. Let's get after it this week. And remember, together, we keep Palm Harbor local.